Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, now, let me get started by first maybe asking a few questions. Okay. Now, could I have a show of hands, right? How many of you have a smartphone? Okay, good. Can you keep, taking your hands up first? Now, how many of you, right, when you go on your vacation or travel, right, use your smartphone to take photos? Okay, good. Now, how many of you think that the photos that you take could have been a lot better? Okay. Now, then I think I get the right crowd over here, okay? Now, first, right, can I get a permission to speak a little bit about myself? Okay? Now, my name is KL Pang, but I'm not KL Mari, okay? So I live in Penang here. Okay. So by profession, right, I'm an engineer, and I'm not a professional photographer, so I'm an engineer. And I work for Intel Corporation. I manage a design team that design integrated circuits. Like in this case, what you all come to know about is the USB, the one that you find on your smartphones or, on your laptop PC where you connect and download your photos or whatnot from your thumb drive, for example. Okay. Now, by profession, I got the chance to travel, and also I like to travel even for leisure. So that's how, I got with this hobby, one of the hobbies of mine, which is to take photos. Okay, so I tinker a lot with smartphones, and how to take some amazing photos. Now, some of the things that, this is my honeymoon more than 10 years ago back in Europe. Okay, and this was just last year when I go for vacation in Sydney. Now, and this is where I usually take a lot of photos and figure out, what works, what doesn't work. Okay. Now, when talk about how to make the photos amazing, there are three aspects that you have to remember. Three. Okay. Now, the first one is how to compose your shot. The second one is how to make use of your camera setting. Okay. And the last one, obviously, is I call it post-process. Post-process here means that after taking the photos, right, sometimes it doesn't turn out quite nice like what you expect. It's not a waste. There's a way to post-process using apps, to make it brilliant. In quite a number of instances, you can make it, turn out pretty good, with the apps. Okay. Now, the first one I'll go through is the frame. Frame here is meaning how to compose the shots. Okay. Now, one thing, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think is the most important factor when you compose a shot? Anyone want to take a guess? Clarity. Okay, good. People. Okay. The tactic. Okay. Yeah, very, very good answers. Like clarity, you have people, the tactic or the technique behind it, right? But all this, right, would not come to anything if you don't have the fundamental of lighting. Okay, if you don't have light, you're just going to get a black photo, that's all, right? So that's why I'm going to touch a little bit over here is about lighting. Now, lighting plays a big part in a photo. It can make a photo either turn out to be very, very dull or very brilliant. Okay, so the first aspect that I want to talk about is this is actually a shot, right? Doesn't turn out quite well because of it's under the downlight here, so it's a bit white out. But this is a shot that I took, which is in the late afternoon. So the trick is that if you want your photo to turn out to have, the color to be brilliant, rich, golden, especially when you take landscape photos, the best time to take it is either early in the morning or otherwise, late in the afternoon, closer to sunrise and the sunset. That's where is the best point in time to take your photo, okay, in terms of the richness of the color in the photo. Okay. Now, the other thing is that you have to be aware of the season or the weather. Well, in Malaysia, we don't call it season, we may call it weather. Weather meaning that whether, especially when you take photo outside, is it cloudy or is it a bright sunny day? But when you travel, especially when you travel to other places where you have 4 seasons, you have to be aware of the fact that what seasons they are. For example, I took this shot during about late summer in Lake Tahoe, the USA. So it's a very, very sunny day. So it turned out to be very nice, especially you can see the lake, bluish as a reflection of the sky. Okay? Imagine if I come back again and I took this shot, and this is during autumn, and you can see that it's very cloudy, and as a reflection of that, the lake looks grayish, so it doesn't turn out quite as nice. Okay? And also like during winter, so this is a shot that I took during winter, and it's again like looks, grayish, doesn't turn out quite as nice. So that's what I meant by, the weather or the season, will affect how your photo turn out. Okay? Now, what do you think of backlight? What is meant by backlight? Backlight means that when you're trying to take a shot of your object in front of you, and the light comes from behind that object. Now, can I have a show of hands, to say that is backlight good for taking photo? I see 2 persons, so majority thinks that the backlight is bad, right, for taking photo. I think a majority is right, Backlight is, in most cases, bad for taking photos because it will cast a shadow on your object, okay? But there are always instances where backlight is good, okay? It can make your photo turn out to be brilliant, okay? So I'm going to show an example here. This is what I like to play with. So this is like how you can use a backlight to light up, example, a portrait shot of a flower in this case. When your subject is, has the ability, like what I call translucent, so to speak. When it's translucent, then when you take a backlight shot, it will appear to be brilliant. Okay? Now, twilight. What is meant by twilight? Anyone want to give a shot? What is meant by twilight? Oh, the light from the moon, yeah. When I first heard about twilight, I always think about Twilight Zone, all right? The TV series. But no, this is nothing mystical. This is just refers to the point when the sun has set, but the sky has not turned dark yet, because the sky can still refract, lights from the sun, even though the sun has set over the horizon. Right. What I mentioned about twilight here is because of smartphones, right? Especially smartphones, is pretty bad with taking low light shots. It is never as good as let's call a digital SLR camera. Okay. So try to limit taking night shots, and when you want to limit taking night shots, right? The best one is you want to take some nice shots of a city view, with the lights turned on, right? Don't take it at night. Take it during twilight, when the sun has set, but the sky are not totally dark yet. Okay, so this is an example of twilight. This is where you can still see, the what you call the buildings, the shape of the buildings, the bridge. The lights has turned on, but it's not totally dark yet. Okay, so your smartphone can still, to some degree, be able to take such a photo. Okay, if it's totally dark, then it's pitch black. All you can see is probably just a dots, and your photos will appear very, very grainy, if it's taken through a smartphone. Okay, advisable not to take, night photos with your smartphones. Okay, reserve that to a digital, SLR with a tripod. Okay. All right. Now, anyone has played tic-tac-toe before? Right? No, I think, yep, a lot. I think most of us, as we grow up, we play tic-tac-toe. So the rule of thirds, right, is also, similar to the concept of a tic-tac-toe. Like in a sense that, if I show a picture here, which is taken near Pulau Jerejak during a sunrise. What is meant by rule of third is that the frame that you compose, overlaid with, two horizontal grid lines and two vertical grid lines. What you want to do is that the object in your frame, try to make it off-centered rather than have it in the center of the frame. By making it off-center, what I meant by that is that aligning your object, right, either to this side or this, or otherwise at this line here or the bottom line here, vertical line. So you make it off-centered and you make your photos more interesting, right? Especially so when you just look at the photo album, right? You look at a photo album, if every single page you flip through, right, your object is always on the center of the photo, right? So it makes it dull. Okay, so this adds some slightly interesting twist to your photos. Okay, right. The next thing is about focus range. I think in layman's term, we'll call it zoom in, zoom out. Okay, I think most of us will know what is meant by zooming in and zooming out. Okay. Now, how do we use this zoom in and zoom out for, right? When I first get in touch with photography, my thought was just that, either I can stand closer or stand further away from the object. That's what zoom in, zoom out means. Okay, so actually it has a slightly different effect. When it goes through when it comes to photography. So the first one is that this is actually a wide angle shot. So wide angle shot means that you are totally zoomed out. Okay, this is a shot that someone took of me in Kowloon, overlooking the Hong Kong island. So you would want to do a wide angle shot if you want to take in a breadth of sceneries behind you. Okay, but what's the drawback of this? The drawback of this is that sometimes the background becomes overcrowded. You may want to highlight certain objects, but it's lost in the background. Okay, more so like I think, like I personally find that sometimes I saw that wow, I like the background. I asked someone to stand in front. Let me take a shot of you with the background. And when I take the shot, right, I always commonly find that what is in the background appears too small. Okay. Then it makes like your photo turned out to be a little bit don't know what story you wanted to tell. Okay. So that's where the telephoto or zoom in comes in. Okay, so what does it do? It actually, you can use it to highlight that particular object in the background that you wanted to, when you do a telephoto or zoom in shot. Okay, in this case, because I wanted to highlight, this building over here, right, versus over here, it's lost, in the whole background. Okay, so this is one way that you can use, telephoto to do it. Now, especially if you can zoom in a lot, our smartphone right now is probably 4x zoom, optical zoom, not a whole lot more. But if you are using, what you call some cameras that offer like even up to 40x optical zoom, those are very versatile. Those can really bring the object at the back, right? Right as it appears as just right behind the person. Okay. All right, now the next one is angle. What I meant by angle, right? How many of you, right, have had the difficulty, right? Oh, I saw a very beautiful landmark or building, I'm trying to snap a photo of it, but I just could not fit it into the frame. Either I snap it, I get the top half of it, or I snap it, I get the bottom half of it. Okay, let me continue. So how many of you have that kind of experience, like, face this kind of problem, like, trying to take a subject which is pretty large, like a building, right, or even like a monument, but you just can't fit it into the frame. It's either, yeah, okay, good, So one of the trick, right, that you can use, right, like in this case, if you ever try, right, at the KLCC, there's a garden. Inside the garden, you try to take a photo of the whole building, you're probably not going to be anywhere successful. So how is this shot being taken? It's from a smartphone, it's from my smartphone. How is this shot being taken? So this literally has the person lying down on the ground and taking the shot pointing up, literally lying down on the ground, okay? So that's what I meant by angle. Angle can do some neat tricks, okay? Now the other aspect of angle is that when you go for, let's say like, on a travel, when you go for travel, especially, a lot of photos that you take are probably very common because everybody goes to that place and snap the same photo again, right? Now, how to make it interesting when it comes to angle? What it meant over here is that for the same landmark, right, you can always look around and find some spots that you can go to that can offer you a very different angle on looking on the object, right? And your photo will turn out very different than many, many common shots of the same landmark. Okay? There's no harm in trying. For my case, when I try, right, maybe 10 different locations I go to, 9 turn out bad, 1 will turn out good, okay? But, but don't give up, So there's, I call it the child in me, right? We all have a child inside us. Just let it, go out and play some fun, and try to capture different things, play with your camera. Okay, this is probably a joke, I guess. Have anyone tried mounted a smartphone on a tripod? Yes, I see the gentleman over there. Yeah, okay. But for most who shake their head was because of there's no way to screw the smartphone onto the tripod to begin with, right? Now, before we go to that, what is the use of a tripod? There are 2 possible uses. One is that where you wanted to take, a group photo with everybody in it, and you doesn't want the cameraman to be left out of the photo, right? So you can set a self-timer and then everybody get into it and then take a photo, right? Now, nowadays, I think there are better tools. They call it where you can take selfie or Wi-Fi, the terms they call it right now, right? A stick sticking out and then you attach your smartphone to it, right? Now, the other trick for using a tripod is when you want to take low light shots, okay? Because many of you have seen like many of our photos using smartphone turn out bad because of camera shake, what we call camera shake. It's blur, right? The photo turned out to be blur. Because of in such low light conditions, our hands can't hold our smartphone steady because the shots will be exposed for a longer time to compensate for the lack of light. Okay? And so therefore, using a tripod will help to steady the shot and get a clearer or sharper picture, so to speak. Now, obviously, we can't really, just screw a smartphone over here. But you will search through like maybe some of the online site in Malaysia, you'll find like tools like this, that is probably like 20 ringgit. You can find it. If you are really an enthusiast, with your smartphone taking photos, right? You can get such a what we call a holder, a smartphone holder. You can clip your smartphone here, and then at the base of this holder, you can screw it into your tripod. So you can still reuse your camera tripod if you have one. Okay. Now this is another interesting question. For those who like to maybe use your smartphone to take a lot of photos when you are traveling, right? How many have this problem of low battery? Low battery with your smartphone, like take it halfway through and find that your phone is not enough of battery, and you can't take any more photos, right? I think this is a very common problem. So what is the common trick to do this? How do we take care of this? Yeah, good question. There's actually a power bank, right? So sometimes I do this trick. And what I do is that when I'm using my smartphone, when it goes on low battery, I have a spare power bank either in my pocket or in my backpack. And I use a USB cable. It's about a meter long. I just plug it to the power bank and connect to my smartphone. I can still happily snap all the photos that I want on my smartphone. Okay? This is actually a good trick. So you won't literally run out of battery on your smartphone. Okay? Now, before I move on to the second topic, which is how to take advantage of the camera setting, right? Any questions so far? Okay, all right. Now, a lot of smartphones now, I don't think I've seen yet, maybe they are digital SLR camera, that's mean those called professional cameras, right? I don't think I've seen so far any, but maybe they are with high dynamic range capability, okay? So a lot of smartphones right now has a high dynamic range capability. I'll show you some example what is meant by high dynamic range. Okay? So this is usually without high dynamic range feature on the smartphone, right? If you don't have that feature when you try to take a shot, right? Especially in what we call a high dynamic range situation. High dynamic range meaning that in the shots that you compose, there are elements inside it that appears to be very, very bright, okay? And some elements appears to be very, very dark, very high contrast. And because of that, right, your smartphone camera will have a tough time to adjust to get the proper exposure. So in this case, right, for example, right, you want to get your background, all the green trees, everything properly exposed, right, and then your object at the front will get very dark. If you expose for this object on the foreground here to be properly exposed, then all your background will be white out. Okay, I think very common. I think a lot of you like play with cameras and take photos. You see this problem. So the smartphone, one of the cool thing in the smartphones nowadays is that they have this what we call high dynamic range setting. You can turn it on. And what it does is that it will be able to take photos. In this case, right, you can see, right, all the faces are properly, exposed, right, and yet the background is also all properly exposed. You're not going to see cases like having dark patches over here and then the faces, right, underexposed, so to speak. Okay, so this is a cool trick to make full use of in your smartphone. Okay. Now, another setting that you can use in your smartphone, right? I think nowadays most smartphones have this feature they call a portrait shot. What a portrait shot does is that, it doesn't show up. It doesn't show up quite well over here. What a portrait shot is that it adds in some post processing to your photo when you take that shot. The first thing is that the object at the center here will appear sharp. Then at the surrounding here, right, it will post-process and blur it out. And in some instance, right, you can choose a setting to darken, the site, around the center of the photo. Okay. So sometimes this is what we call, the smartphone trying to mimic the feature of a digital SLR camera. So-called your depth of field, so to speak. Okay. Now, another cool thing that you can do, right, with your smartphone is that taking panorama shot. Okay, so it's very simple. You just select the feature and then you can just pan around the what you call, it could be 180 degrees. You can pan around and then just take a wide, angle shot of the surroundings or the panorama. Okay, so but one word of advice, right? I seldom use this one. I personally seldom use this one. Why? Why I seldom use this one? I find that there's some trade-off in this. The trade-off is that as you pan your smartphone to take the shot, right? Behind the scene, right? There's a lot of processing going on behind the scene that try to compensate because of all your shake in your hand and so forth, right? What it ended up, right, is that the resolution of your photo, right, is actually downgraded. The resolution of your photo is downgraded, and you see less sharp, less details actually in your photo. So I seldom take this kind of shots. I usually prefer to take just a shot by itself, the normal shots, where it contains better details in the photo. Okay? Now, the other thing is about exposure. Let me think about what's the best way to talk about this exposure. Now, some of you may have seen in your camera that you have this +1, +2, or -1, -2 setting, right? Those are usually associated with what we call exposure. Okay? The best way for me to talk about this is maybe show some examples, how you can use these exposures to get better, more lively, sometimes more lively photos. So this is an example, like a lighter. When you set your exposure to be lighter, the whole picture will turn out to be, this is actually a picture of sunset. This is, I think, in Lumut, overseeing the Pulau Pangkor, I guess. Yes. So this is a sunset shot. So you can adjust it to be, lighter. You can see that the whole frame looks lighter than this one. This one can adjust it to be darker. Now, when do we use this trick? You want to adjust to be darker or want to adjust it to be lighter? I usually use this trick when I take sunset shots, because when I adjust it to be darker, right, the beauty of it is that then the sunset, right, becomes richer. The color of the sunset becomes a lot more richer. Okay, so this is some of the things that I use to tricks that I play with. Okay. Now the last part that I want to go through is actually how to touch up the shots, the pictures that I've taken after the fact that I've taken the shot. Okay, there's still a lot of things that you can play with, even though you already snapped the photo. Okay. So before I go to that topic again, I'd like to open up to the floor. Any questions about camera settings? Maybe there are some settings that you use, or maybe there are some settings that you saw on your smartphone that you weren't quite clear what they are about, what to make best use of it. Feel free to ask me, right? Even we can chat after my talk. We can still chat a little bit about that. Okay, all right. Now, obviously, there are a lot of photo apps available that you can install and play with, right? So I'm not going to go through all the apps that are available there because there's just too many. So in this particular talk, I'm just going to touch on one particular app that I most often, I call it, most of the time I use this app. I've installed several apps, but I found this probably most useful because of one of the very useful feature that I found. So I will talk about that in my talk over here. Okay. So this app is called Snapseed. It's available in what you call Google Play, as well as the Apple Store. So it's actually free. You can download and install it for free. Okay. So I urge you, if you have not heard about this, have not play with this, tinker with it, download it, install it, and tinker with it. So you'll probably be surprised of what you can do to your, to your photos. Okay. Now, for some of us who are not very familiar or with smartphones, sometimes installing apps could be very daunting, right? Trying to figure out how exactly I'm going to use this, because I've not used it before. The good thing about this app is that it has a question mark button where you can press it and you overlay all the helps over here and tell you exactly how you can use it. So, which is a very good feature. So don't be afraid, So it has a very good what I call guide, help and guide, that can teach you along the way. If you pick on a particular feature, you want to use a particular feature, you just hit the help button, and that will teach you how to use it. Okay? The one very common features in fact, on many apps, besides Snapseed, on any apps, is called automatic correction. Okay. So what does automatic correction does? So automatic correction actually tries to compensate. If they analyze your photo and see that whether the contrast, look at whether the what you call the brightness, and try to compensate and for that to automatically correct that. Okay. For example, this is an original shot. And then what it does, after it automatically corrected for it. Okay, so you can see that all these things are a little bit down, so it will adjust and brighten it up. Okay. So this is just one button. You just hit the button and it automatically do it for you. So this one particular feature, everybody could use it. Okay, it's just an automatic correction, just one button. You load in that photo, just hit one button and it's done. Okay, this is the simplest one. Now, just now I mentioned about portrait shots. Actually, you can take a portrait shot as part of a camera setting, because some camera actually supports that, meaning that as you press the button to take the shot, it will automatically create the portrait shot. Now, apps also can do it. For those of you who don't have, a camera setting that support that, don't despair, right? You always like the feel of depth that you create with a digital SLR camera, right? You can still do it over here. Okay, I call it to some degree. Still not as good as the digital SLR, but to some degree you can do that. So, for example, in this case, the same photo, right? It is original. And I can post-process it. This is how it looks like. So actually I crop it as well. Crop it, make it a little bit off-center. But you can see, right, when I portrait shot it, I make this at the center of my portrait. So this thing will be in focus. And the rest of it will be, blur out, a little bit out of focus to create that, I call it maybe fake depth of field, so to speak. Okay? This is another one, we call it a tilt shift miniature. This is again a post-processing trick to create a depth of field again. Okay? This is the original photo. This is where I took, I went to a cafe to take a coffee in San Francisco. So if I want to process it, this is how it will look like. What it meant by tilt shift is that you can select a horizontal region where you want the focus to be maintained, and the rest of it above and below it to be blurred out or out of focus. Okay. So this is one feature that you can use, especially in this case. I wanted the center of attention to be on this over here, right? So I can use that. Another thing that I find very useful is a straightener, okay? Because we cannot perfectly hold our smartphone in a level manner. A lot of times that I found that I take a shot, I found that, oh gosh, it's tilted, right? It's tilted. So in the past, before we have these apps, is probably as good as that whole photo is, you just as well as just delete it, right? But don't despair right now, you can actually salvage your photo. Like in this case, you can see that it's actually tilted, the island is tilted, the table is tilted, right? This is, and what you can do, right, you can actually rotate the photo to make it, to make it leveled again. So your shot is not exactly wasted, so to speak. Okay, so you can do all these good tricks. I've done quite a number of occasions where I've used this to salvage a lot of photos that I've taken that that's turned out to be tilted. Okay. Now this comes to selective adjust. This is one of the things that I find most useful in Snapseed, in this app, Snapseed, that I don't find it in many other apps. It is a very, very powerful feature. That's why I like to use Snapseed. Okay, this is one of the features that I use the most. Okay. So I'm just going to give a very, very simple example here. But if you understand this, you can actually apply this to a lot of problems that you have with your photos, you try to remedy. Okay? Like in this case, what I wanted to do is that I would like, to highlight this shot that I take. This is actually in Sedona, USA. So I want to highlight these shots that I take. I want to make it turn out to be even more reddish. I want to make it, glow, so to speak. So, and this is how it could turn out. What I do is that I can just pinpoint to this, right? To this, I just pinpoint on it, and then I select how big a field I wanted it to affect, and I just adjust the highlight. The good thing is that it won't just simply highlight everything. It will highlight, and in this case, I wanted to selectively saturate the color. So it will intelligently choose this color that I highlight, that I pinpoint to, and saturate the color. So in this case, make it appear to be redder. So it's intelligent enough to select it and doesn't make any other colors in the photo to be saturated. So it can choose only the colors that I pinpoint to. Okay? Now, this is also very useful in some other shots. I've used this many times when I'm very limited in the way that I can take a shots, and when I take a shots, right, especially like backlight, the problem of backlight, and my subject's faces appear to be shadow and then darken in the shot. So this cool trick itself, right, I can selectively point to the face and adjust the brightness in the face, and it won't adjust the background, it will adjust only the face. Okay, so I can pick all the people in the photo, adjust their face, make it brighten back up, and the shots will turn up beautiful again. So it's not a wasted shot. Okay? So this is a very, very cool feature or trick that you can use in Snapseed. Okay, so to wrap up, right? So just to recap, there are three aspects that you need to take care of, that you can think about it and take advantage of in order to help you, take brilliant photos. Okay. So the first thing is about frame or how you compose your shots. Okay. And the second one is taking advantage of your camera setting, right? Your camera setting. And the last one is after taking the shot, how to use apps, to make correction if you need to correct or compensate for what is lagging in your shots. Okay. All right. So with that, right, I'll reach the end of my talk here. So is there any question? Maybe I share with you one question that I got asked before, right? The question that I got asked before is that, is the smartphone camera nowadays is so good that it can actually replace a digital SLR camera? Interesting question. My short answer is still cannot. Still cannot. Okay. Maybe one day. Okay. But in most cases, right, especially in the bright outdoor, there's probably very little difference between a smartphone camera, you take a photo of your smartphone, or using a digital SLR. Okay. In a bright outdoor. Where smartphone can probably be useful is that you want to take candid shots of people, okay? Because smartphone is a little bit less what you call intrusive, right? In the case that you hold a bulky camera, in front of children, in front of people, they probably be a little bit, taken aback by it. But you want to take impromptu natural shots, right? Sometimes smartphone, because it's a little bit pervasive, you can take that better. Okay, and obviously for the high dynamic range, the HDR shot, which is a very good advantage in the smartphone. But other cases like you want to take low lights, no, smartphone won't be able to beat the digital SLR camera. And also, you want to take actions photo, that means that you need a very fast, what you call, what is that word again? Yeah, shutter speed, very fast shutter speed, right? And you can't beat, the smartphone can't beat that. You want to freeze your kids in action, a sportsman in action, you can't beat the digital SLR camera using a smartphone. Okay, right? Is there a question just now? I saw this gentleman taking the hand. What about optical zoom? Between a smartphone and a digital SLR camera. Okay, how many maximum, usually, just take a guess, a maximum, what is the maximum what you call zoom range or what you call the amplification range of a smartphone? No idea. 12? 8? 4? Yeah. It's usually about 4. Why? No, 4 is optical zoom. I see the gentleman say digital zoom. Yeah. If you see some smartphone that maybe more than 4x, right? It's slightly including digital zoom. Okay, so maybe I think someone probably going to ask me what's the difference between optical zoom and digital zoom, right? So don't trust digital zoom. It's just a trick, So digital zoom, what it does is that when you take a photo, right, a very big photo, when I say digital zoom, is actually it just crop out that small section inside it. What happens is that you lose resolution, you lose details in your zoom, in your shot, okay? Not a good way to do it. So you would like optical zoom actually. Optical zoom usually only about 4x. Why? Why there's a limit? Because of the thickness of your smartphone, okay? It's limited by the thickness of a smartphone. Yeah. So now, for digital SLR, how many x of zoom that you can get? Yeah, depending on the lens. You can definitely get, you can choose lens that can offer like, telephoto more than 4x definitely. You have wider flexibility, in this respect for digital SLR versus smartphone. And that's the reason why, right? Digital SLR is better in terms of flexibility, creating the depth of field in portrait shots. Okay, any other question? If not, well, I'll end with my contact here. Okay, so if some of you are playing with smartphones and have some questions, or maybe like you've taken a shots and want to show me that, yeah, I know this is a problem I face. What's the best way to take care of this, right? If I have the time, I'll definitely help to reply and and maybe give some advice and thoughts on that. Okay? All right. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.